Hi, I'm Adam from San Diego Sport Flyers. Today we're going to talk about doing a pre-flight on your SportCruiser. This is just kind of a basic walk around, kind of give you an idea of what things to look for when you do your pre-flight. But the big thing to remember is to make sure you consult your POH, and it has step-by-step instructions on actually how to do a pre-flight. Again, it's just for familiarization. So the first place you're going to start out when you do your pre-flight on the SportCruiser is inside the cockpit. Take the covers off, whatnot, open up the canopy. And what I like to do first is check to make sure all the required documents are on board. So we keep the documents right here. What you're looking for, the acronym is AROW, A-R-O-W. So the A is for airworthiness, which you can see is the pink one in front. R is for registration, which is the white one that you can see on the top of here. O is for operating handbook, and that's right here, Pilot's Operating Handbook for the SportCruiser. And then the W is for weight and balance. And we keep the weight and balance inside the POH here, if you need to reference that. Then what I like to do is make sure the controls are free. A lot of times when the airplane sits outside, we'll put the seat belt around the controls just to keep the flight surfaces from whipping in the wind. So once those are free, you just kind of do a quick view, make sure everything's clean, nothing's broken or missing. And then next step is to go ahead and put the flaps down. So the selector's right here in the middle of the console, and you want to push it into down position until the green light goes all the way fully down. Once your flaps are down, you want to go ahead and check your lights. So the way you do that is select the lights you'll need for that flight. We'll go and put the strobe lights, the nav lights, and the landing lights on. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and walk around real quick and check to make sure all the lights are working. Then once you're done walking around checking the lights, you want to go ahead and shut all the switches back off. Start with the lights, and then the instrument and master switch off. Then when you get out of the airplane, the first place you want to start is here with the flaps. What I like to do is real lightly grab on the flaps just to make sure it's attached. You don't want to bend anything, it's light sheet metal. And then you come around, and if you look under, you can see the bolts here that hold the flap on. And now while you're down here too, it's a good time to just feel to make sure the wheel skirt is on, that the tire looks full. There's no leaking or anything under here. The other thing when you're checking on the landing gear, make sure there's plenty of tread on the tires, that there's no bald spots, that there's plenty of air in it. And if you want to check the tire, go ahead and roll the airplane forward, and you can see around the whole tire if there's plenty of tread in it. Next you come around to the aileron. Again, if you grab on the rivet line here, you can real lightly move it up and down. Make sure you don't force it or push on it. And then you come down, and there's access holes here that you could see the bolts. Make sure they're on there tight, and then same thing here with the control linkage, making sure that the bolts are in it. When you're out on the wingtip, you want to check for its condition, make sure there's no cracks, make sure that the light is on and attached. You can real lightly grab on it, make sure it's not loose and that the screws are in it. We already checked to make sure the bulb was working. Now when you're on this side here, this is the hook where we put the chains on. So if the plane has been parked outside and chained down, this is the time to take the chains off. And also the vents for the fuel liner here. While you're under here too, it's a good time to take a look at the pitot tube. Make sure it's clear, all the holes are clear on it, there's no bugs or a piece of tape or anything obstructing that. When you come around the front of the wing, you're checking to make sure it hasn't run into anything, that it's a nice smooth surface. And then when you come down under here, this is the time to go ahead and check the fuel quality. So this is the sump that pulls from the very bottom of the tank, which is the place where all the water and sediment will gather. So you just push straight up, get a full tester full of fluid, And then we're checking all the sediment, water, anything like that will fall to the bottom. It's a good idea. Just kind of real quick check to make sure it is gas, that it's not just filled up with water. If it sits outside a lot, sometimes it's possible that a leaky fuel cap, you could fill the tank full of water. And if it looks good, we put it back into the tank. If it is contaminated, you need to properly dispose of it. Now when you pull the cap off, this is the time here to check to make sure the gauges are working properly. It said it was about 12 gallons of fuel. See, we have about 12 gallons worth of fuel in here. Then go ahead and put the cap back on. Come to the inboard side of the wing here. Check to make sure the wing locker is closed and locked. All the screws should be turned the proper quarter turn, and they shouldn't be flying up here. You should be able to kind of pull on it a little bit. It shouldn't pop up. When you're down here under the airplane, it's a good time to look back and you can see the brakes. Make sure that there's plenty of pad, that all the bolts are on that hold it on there, and once again that the wheel pan is on and attached. You can also do the same thing with the nose wheel. All the screws should be in. All the bolts that attach it should be on. Now what we're going to do is we're going to check the oil. So the way you do this, by opening the door, take the cap off. And I set the cap off here upside down so it doesn't get oil on everything. And then you want to take the dipstick out and just set it to the side here. Then what you want to do is burp the engine. So what we're doing is we're pushing all the oil back into the oil sump so we can get an accurate reading of how much oil is in the airplane. The way you do this is you pull the prop through in the direction it turns. So you see here that this is the leading edge of the propeller blade. This is the way we're going to pull it through. And just do this nice and slowly. You really can't force it to go fast or anything. But what you want to do is while you're pulling the prop through, you want to check the condition of the propeller blades, and also you can check the screws that hold the spinner on as you go around. So as you pull the prop through, it'll take about a minute or so. What you're waiting for is to hear a gurgling sound in the engine compartment. And what that'll mean is that all the oil has been pushed back into the sump, and then now it's pushing the air back in there. So now that we heard the engine gurgle, you want to take the dipstick and drop it into the center hold there. Make sure it goes all the way down to the bottom, and this is where we read our oil. The oil should be somewhere on the flat spot on the dipstick here. So here it's about a quarter up. I like to give it a second because it takes a little time for oil to drain over here. So we're showing about a quarter up on the dipstick. So if you do have to add oil to your engine, what Sport Flyers is using is this AV9 semi-synthetic motor oil. We use 10W40. And when you add the oil in there, you're going to add just a very small amount. Do it real slowly because it takes time. It's a very small sump. It's not like a car where you pour the whole quart in there. Just a couple ounces will fill it all the way up to the top. The other thing you can check down there is the coolant, and it needs to be above the minimum level down in there. When you come around to this side of the engine compartment, you want to check the fuel in the filter here. It's fuel, water, and sediment separator. And what you do is just same way, you just push up on it. And any dirt, water, or bad fuel will get into here. And if it looks clean, you can go ahead and put it back into the fuel tank.